Hello, we will now discuss paper 4 of variant 3 in 2023 October-November series. So then let's get started with the first question. The table shows the amount received when exchanging $100 in some country. So we need to keep in mind that $100 when exchanged, the amounts that we get in different currencies is only mentioned in this table. Brad changes $250 to Indian rupees. Calculate the amount he receives correct to the nearest rupee. So in this case, we need to pick Indian rupees. So $100 in Indian rupees is going to be 7,437.05 rupees. And in this case, when we try to do a question related to currency exchange, the same units should be written in the numerators, like I have mentioned in the side, and the same units should be written in the denominators. That means the same currencies should be written. That's what I'm trying to say. So here, the way how we would write is, so I'm gonna put the division bar here, and we know that $100 is the same as 7,437.05 rupees. I'll put RS here just to say that that is going to be rupees. Then this is equal to, we need to see how much $250 will be in Indian rupees. So I'm gonna put $250 here, and we need to find the amount in Indian rupees. So when we do that, now to find this amount, what we got to do is we need to cross multiply. So I will label this as X. So we need to find what this X is. So when I cross multiply this, the 100 gets times with this X, and 250 gets times with this 7,437.05. So 100 times X is 100X. That is equal to 7437.05 times 250. So to find what X is, I need to divide both the sides by 100, or simply to get rid of this 100, to bring this 100 to the other side. That is why we divide it by 100. So the value of X when we do the division, we need to make sure that we should also make sure that to write it to the nearest rupee, which means in this case, it has to be a whole number that we're going to write. So I'm going to put this in the calculator. So we have 7437.05 times 250, and I need to divide it by 100. This is what I end up getting. And I need to write it to the nearest rupee, which will be 8,593 rupees. So then let me put the answer here. 18,593 rupees. That is what we got. Let's move on to the second question. Wang changes 5,400 Chinese yuan into dollars. Calculate how much he receives in dollars correct to the nearest cent. Then in that case, now this is the amount in yuan. So that is $100 in yuan is unknown to us. So I'm going to write that in the form of a fraction just like I did here. So I'm going to write $100 in yuan. So I'm going to put it like this. I'll put the currency sign symbol in front. So it's going to be this. This is equal to, so I need to find the amount of dollars he would receive if he changes 5,400 Chinese yuan. So I'm going to put the Chinese yuan here. This is 500, and we need to calculate the dollars. I'm going to label this as X because that is what we're trying to find. I'm going to cross multiply to solve this. So when I cross multiply, let's see what we end up getting. So 671.20 times X is equal to 100 times 5,400. And I need to get rid of this 671.20 that multiplies with this X. So I need to divide it by that same amount. So I'm going to divide this side as well, because only then we can get rid of this 671.20 that is with this X. So the value of X, to find it, I'm going to put this in the calculator now. So let's see what we get then. So we have 100 times 5,400, and I need to divide it by 671.20. So this is equal to 804.529. But this time I need to write it to the nearest cent. So we're writing it to the nearest sin. That's going to be correct to 2 decimal places. That's the meaning. So in that case, it's going to be 804.53, and this is going to be in dollars. So $804.53. This is what we get. Let's move on to question C. Gretel lives in Spain and goes on holiday to Wales. She spends 3,500 euros in total on travel and hotels in ratio. So they have given the ratio here. Work out how much she spent in euros on travel. So then first we're going to see the total number of parts that we have, 4 and 3, which makes 7 parts. Which means out of these 7 parts, we're spending 4 portion out of it on travel, because we need to find for travel. Then I need to simply multiply this with the amount she spent. So that is, she spends in total, which is 3,500. So when we multiply this, the amount that we get is going to be in euros. So that is the amount she spent in travel. So when we solve this, we end up getting 2,000 euros. So this is the amount she spent on travel. The second part of the question, work out how much she spends in pounds in hotels. So to calculate that, we know that she spends $2,000 out of 2,000 euros out of these 3,500 euros on travel, which means the remaining portion is the amount that she spends on hotels. So in that case, we need to first calculate how many euros that is going to be. So from 3,500, I need to deduct the amount she spent on travel. So this leaves us with 1,500, but this is in euros. Now I need to convert this amount into pounds. So to convert this into pounds, now according to the question that is given to us, we need to first convert the euros into dollars, because that is the conversion chart that is given here. So to convert euros into dollars, $100 is the same as 85.35 euros. So I can write it as 100, I'm gonna write it as 85.35 euros over $100, because this is the same as $100. This is equal to the amount in euros is known to us, which is 1,500 euros. And I need to calculate how many dollars this is going to be first. So to do that, I'm going to label this as X, just like I did in the previous questions. And I'm going to cross multiply to find what X is. So to find what X is, I need to times this 100 and 1,500 together. This 85.35 gets multiplied with this X. Then I need to remove this 85.35. So to remove that, I need to divide it by 85.35. That means this amount has to be divided by 85.35. That will give us how many dollars she spent. So I'm going to put this in the calculator and see what we get. So we have 100 times 1,500, and I need to divide it by 85.35. So when I do that, this is the amount that I end up getting, which is 1,757.4692. Likewise, we have a few more decimal places as well. So I'm going to write it as 1,757 point. I'll just write as 4692 for now. This is going to be the value of X. Now, this amount that we got is going to be in dollars, but the question is asking us to convert it into pounds. Now, in this conversion chart, there is a relationship between dollars and pounds. That is going to be $100 is the same as 77.05 pounds. So we are going to use that relationship to find the amount in pounds. So we know that according to the question, $100 is the same as, it was the same as 77.05 pounds. This is equal to, and the other side, the amount in dollars is known to us. So that is going to be 1,757.4692. So dollars should be written at the top. And I need to find how much this is in pounds. So I'll label this as Y, because that is what we are supposed to find. So to do this, we need to cross multiply and make Y the subject. So 100 times y is 100y. So I'll just write it as y for now. And in the other side, we have 77.05. It gets multiplied with 1757.4692. And this is equal to 100y. So for me to find what y is, I need to get rid of this 100. So I need to divide both the sides by 100. So I can just write it as this side over 100 will give us the answer for y. So that is going to be the amount in pounds. I'm going to put this in the calculator. So I'm going to use the amount that is given in the calculator here, times that by 77.05. Then this answer should be divided by 100. So when I do that, I get 1,354.13 pounds. So we get 1,354.13 pounds. So we need to write it in pounds. And when it comes to currency, if it's not mentioned whether to write it to the nearest whole number or anything like that, always make sure to write it to 2 decimal places. Let's move on to the next part of the question that we have, which is part 3. Greta flies home to Spain. The plane flies a distance of 2,200 kilometers correct to the nearest 100 kilometers. The average speed is given to us and it's written correct to the nearest 20 kilometers per hour. We need to calculate the lower bound for time taken, and we need to make sure we write it in hours and minutes. So in this case, now we need to use the speed formula. Speed is equal to distance over time. So this is the formula that we have, but we are supposed to calculate the time taken. So to find time, we need to swap these two around, which means time is equal to distance divided by speed. And in the question, we are supposed to find the lower bound for time. So to calculate the lower bound for time, the distance, when it comes to the distance, the lower bound of the distance should be divided by the upper bound of the speed, because only then we can get the lowest possible value. Now, we need to find the lower bound for the distance and the upper bound for speed. The distance is given to us as distance is equal to 2,200 kilometers, and it's written correct to the nearest 100 kilometers, which means to find what number to be added or subtracted to calculate the upper bound and the lower bound, we need to divide this by 2. This is equal to 50, which means to calculate the upper bound, I will have to add 50, and to calculate the lower bound for distance, I need to deduct 50. So here I need the lower bound for distance, so I need to deduct 50. So from 2,200, when I deduct 50, I get 2,150. So this is the distance in kilometers. The same way, when it comes to speed, speed is given to us as 740 kilometers per hour. Now in this speed, we need to calculate the upper bound. And it's been rounded to the nearest 20 kilometers per hour, which means I need to divide this 20 by 2, which is 10, to find what number should be added or deducted to calculate the upper bound and the lower bound. So we need to add 10 or deduct 10 to calculate the upper bound and the lower bound. We need the upper bound, so we need to add 10, which is 750, but this is in kilometers per hour, which means the distance, that is 2,150 kilometers, should be divided by 750 kilometers per hour. So when we do this, we are going to see what we end up getting. So let's put this in the calculator. So we have 2,150. I need to divide it by 750. So when I do that, this is what I get. So I get 2.8666. The 6 is recurring there. But this is going to be the time in hours. But I need to convert this into minutes because the question is asking us to write it in hours and minutes. So let's see what we end up getting there. So I will write the answer that we got there in the calculator here, which is 2. Let me write it here. So we got 2.868 recurring 6. So this is going to be the amount in hours. But we need to write it in hours and minutes. So we need to make sure that I'm going to convert it into minutes first. So to do that, I need to times this by 60. So then let's times this amount by 60. So when I do that, I get 172, which means we get 172 minutes. So this is the same as 172 minutes, but we need to write it in hours and minutes. So then here we will have 2 hours. That's because 60 times 6 is going to be 120. So that's going to be 120, we have 2 hours and we have 52 minutes left. So it's going to be 2 hours and 52 minutes. So we have now written the answer in hours and minutes. Let's move on to the next question that we have, which is question 2. The table shows the number of each type of bird seen in a garden on Monday. And there are different types of birds seen and the frequency is given and the pie chart sector angle is given here, but it's incomplete. The first question is, find the percentage of the birds that are starlings. So to find that, now there are 11 starlings according to this table that is given. Now first we should also calculate the total that we have. The total that we have will be the addition of all the addition of the frequency that we have here. So we have 8, 6, 11, and 5. So when we add them together, we get a total of 30. So out of these 30 birds, 11 are starlings. So we need to write that as a fraction first. And we're supposed to calculate it as a percentage. So therefore, you need to times it by 100. If it's given us to calculate the angle, then we need to times it by 360, but here it's given as percentage, so we need to times it by 100. So we're going to put this in the calculator and see what we get. So this will give us 36.67%. The second part of the question is to complete the column for the pie chart sector angle. So we need to calculate each of these angles. To calculate the first angle that we have here, it's going to be 6 out of the total, which is 30. And like I mentioned here, if we are to calculate the sector angle, in that case, we need to times it by 360. So we need to put this in the calculator and see what we get as the answer. So I'm going to write the fraction. So that is going to be 6 out of 30 and then times it with 360. So this is equal to 72. Then the next angle that we have is to make it 11. So we are going to find for starlings. So that's going to be 132. And the same way, we need to change the numerator here to a 5 as well. So when I change it into a 5, the value that I get is 60. So then now we know each of these angles here. So this was 72. So I'll write it here. 72. Then we got 132. And then we got 60 degrees. This is how we complete the pie chart. This is how we complete find the sector angle. Then the next one is to complete the pie chart using the information that we have here. Now to complete it, we will have to use a protractor. We will have to measure it and then we will have to complete this. So the first one is, it's going to be 72 degrees. So already goldfinch is given to us as 96 degrees. So this angle is given to us as 96 degrees. The next one is 72 degrees. So we're going to place the protractor. The center of the protractor should be placed here at this point, and the zero line should be placed, zero line on the protractor should be placed on this line. Then we need to measure the angle, and when we measure the angle and draw it, 72 degrees will be somewhere here. So this is going to be 72 degrees. Next, we need to mark 132 degrees, which is for starling. So this is going to be for J, so I'll write it like this. And the next one is for starlings, which was 132. Again, place the protractor, the 0 at the middle here at the center of the circle. Then the center of the protractor on the center of the circle, the 0 on this line, and then we need to start measuring 132 degrees. So when I measure 132 degrees, this is going to be somewhere here. So this angle is 132 degrees. So this is going to be for starling. So I'll write it here and starlings. And then the next one is for robin. So the remaining amount, which will anyways be 60 degrees, whether you measure it using the protractor or not. And this is for robin. So this is how we complete the pie chart, but please make sure you use a protractor to measure each of these angles and then draw it. Let's move on to the next one that we have, which is question C. On Tuesday, the number of goldfinches seen in the garden increased by 262.5%. Calculate the number of goldfinches seen on Tuesday. Now, in this case, the amount by which it has been increased is given to us. And we need to calculate, and we already know how many goldfinches were there at the beginning, which was 8. We need to calculate how much was seen on Tuesday. That means after the increase, how much that was. Now, here it has been increased, it has been increased by 262.5%, which means we need to write this as a multiplier to do that. To 100, I need to add this 262.5, which is 362.5%. This as a decimal will be 3.625. So this 3.625 only should be used. And as we are trying to find the amount after the increase, that is the final amount, we need to multiply these two together. So I'm going to multiply 8 with 3.625. So when I do that, I get 29, an exact amount. So it is going to be equal to 29 goldfinches was seen on Tuesday. Let's move on to question D. One of the most common birds in the world is the red-billed quail, which lives in sub-Saharan Africa. There are approximately 1,000 million of these birds in this area. Write 1,500 million in the standard form. So 1,500 million is 1,500 times 10 to the power 6. This is the meaning. We need to write this in the standard form. So when writing it in the standard form, we need to move the decimal point so that it makes a number that is in between 1 and 10 or equal to 1. So when I move it 3 places to the left, that is when I get 1.5, which is a number in between 1 and 10. So it's going to be 1.5 times 10 to the power 3, because when I moved it 3 units to the left, it's going to be 10 to the power 3. And I also have 10 to the power 6, which makes a total of 10 to the power 9. So that's going to be 1.5 times 10 to the power 9. The next question is, the land area of sub-Saharan Africa is approximately 21.2 million square kilometers. Work out the average number of these birds per square kilometer. So to calculate this, now we need to find birds per square kilometer. So I'll write it as birds per area. That is what we are supposed to calculate, but it should be in square kilometers. So that is what it's mentioned here. So the amount of birds is known to us, which is 1.5 times 10 to the power 9. That is the amount of birds that we have in that particular area, over the area of the land. The land area is given to us as 21.2 million square kilometers. So that is going to be 21.2 times 10 to the power 6 square kilometers. So we need to do the division here. So this will give us the answer. So I will write this 1.5 times 10 to the power 9 as the 1,005. I'll write it as 1,500 times 10 to the power 6, just like we wrote here. So I can easily cross these two off, and I need to do the division here. So that is 1,500 has to be divided by 21.2. So 21.2. So when I do the division, this is what I get, which is 70.75. 7547. So I'll write it as 70.7547.7547. So this is what I get, but I need to write it to the nearest whole number. So I'm gonna write it as 71, because it's going to be the number of birds per square kilometer. So it's going to be about 71 birds per square kilometer. Let's now work on question 3. So in this question, the first part is to describe the single transformation that maps triangle A onto triangle B. Now, this is where triangle A is. This is where triangle B is. So we need to see the transformation. We need to explain the transformation that maps triangle A onto triangle B. By the looks of the diagrams given to us, this is a rotation, and it is a 90-degree rotation in the anti-clockwise direction. But when we explain rotation, it's important that we mention the angle, direction, as well as the center of rotation. Now we know the angle as well as the direction, but we need to find the center of rotation. To find the center of rotation, we need to place a tracing paper on the grid, and we're going to draw the triangle A on the tracing paper. We can place the pen or the pencil that you're using at different points on the grid and do a 90-degree rotation until the object or the drawing that you have drawn on the tracing paper coincides with this shape that is given here, which is shape B. Once when it coincides, that is when we know that we have figured out the center of rotation. In this case, the center of rotation will be at 2 and 7. So when we describe the transformation, we need to write it as 90 degrees anti-clockwise rotation about the coordinate point, which is 2, 7. So this is how you need to describe the rotation. Let's move on to part B. Draw the image of triangle A after a reflection in the line y is equal to 1. So first, let me draw the y is equal to 1 line. So this is 1 in the y-axis. So this is going to be that y is equal to 1 line. Now, we need to reflect this shape A on this y is equal to 1 line. So when we reflect it, so this point is 2 units away from the y is equal to 1 line. So this is that y is equal to 1 line. So we need to do the same distance in the other side as well. So 2 units away from the y is equal to line will be here. This point is 2 units away from the y is equal to 1 line. We do the same thing in the opposite side, so it will be here. This point that we have here is going to be 5 units away from the y is equal to 1 line. It will be the same distance away, which is going to be here. Therefore, the image after the reflection is going to be like this. Let's move on to the next part. So we need to translate triangle A by a vector of 5 and -7. So this is triangle A, and we need to translate it by a vector of 5 and -7. So the 5 is a positive 5, which means it's going to move 5 units to the right. And we have -7, which means we need to move 7 units down. So when we move 7 units down, we end up getting this vertex here. So only then it's going to be 7 units down. The same way, we got to do the same thing for these 2 points, but we already have moved one of the vertex here. So that will be more than enough for us to draw the other figure or the other points. So the other points will be here and here. So I can connect this to form the triangle. So this is how the image will be, the triangle will be after a reflection, after a translation of 5 and -7. The third part of the question is to enlarge by a scale factor of 2, and the center of enlargement is given to us as -4 and 5. So first, let's mark the center of enlargement, which is -4 and 5. This is the center of enlargement. Now, what we got to do is we got to draw lines that pass through the center of enlargement and that passes through the vertices of each of these vertices of this triangle. Let's pick the first point, which is this point. So I'm going to draw a line that passes through the center of enlargement and through that vertex. So this is how it's going to be. So this is going to be 1 unit, 2 units according to the diagonal length. Now this is going to be doubled because the scale factor is 2, which means when I double it, it will be here. So this vertex is going to be here when we enlarge it. Then the next one that we have is going to be this vertex. So I'm going to draw a line that passes through this point and I'm going to extend it. So this is how the line is. So this is going to be 2 units away. I need to double it because the scale factor is 2. So when I double it, it's going to be here. So I'm going to mark this point here. And we have one more point that is left. So that is this vertex. So I need to connect this vertex to the center of enlargement. So when I draw it, this is how it will be. This vertex is 1 unit away. I need to double it because the scale factor is 2. So when I double it, this is where the scale factor, this is where the vertex is going to be. Now what I need to do is I need to connect these points that are given here to form the image. So this is how the enlarged diagram would look like. Let's move on to the next question that we have, which is question 4. Question 4. Find the size of one interior angle of a regular 10-sided polygon. Now in this, the key information is that we need to find the value of one of the interior angles, and this is a regular polygon. In a regular polygon, to find the value of one interior angle, we use the formula 180 times n minus 2 over n. This 180 times n minus 2 gives the angle sum of a polygon, and when we divide it by the number of sides that polygon has, it will give us the value of one interior angle. And in this question, as this is a regular polygon, all interior angles will be of the same size. So we use the formula 180 times n minus 2 divided by n. N is the number of sides, so that's going to be 10. So this will be 180 times 10 minus 2 divided by the number of sides, which is a 10. So 180 times 10 minus 2 over 10 is equal to 144 degrees. Let's move on to the next question. The points A, B, C, D, and E lie on a circle. If G is a tangent to the circle at D, EB is parallel to DC. So that's already marked in the diagram. And we need to find these 4 angles. First, what we're going to do is, now we know that this is a tangent. This is a chord. This is the angle that is in between the tangent and the chord. So we can make use of the alternate segment theorem. So this is the angle that is in between the tangent and the chord. So this is going to be the alternate segment that we have here. So using the starting and the ending point of the chord, we have an angle that is subtended on the circumference, which means this is 20. This also will be the same 20 degrees because they will be equal because of the alternate segment theorem. Then what I could do next is, now this angle that we have here, that I marked here, which is this x, is formed using this arc here. Using that same arc, we have another angle that is formed here as well. So these 2 angles that we have here are angles in the same segment. Therefore, this W will also be equal to 20 degrees. Then the next thing that we can do is, we have the parallel lines, which means I can form alternate angles here. So I can draw the Z shape because alternate angles will be in the shape of letter Z. So this angle that we have here and this angle that we have here will be equal, which means this is going to be 20 degrees. Then the next thing that I'm going to do is, I'm going to consider this angle that we have here. So that is, I'm going to draw the tangent here and I will draw the chord like this. So this is going to be the angle in between the tangent and the chord. So again, I'm going to make use of the alternate segment theorem. This is the starting and the ending point of the chord. Using these 2, I can form this triangle like this. This angle here, which means this angle will be equal to the total of this 20 and 25, which is 45 degrees because of the alternate segment theorem. So this is 45 degrees. Next, to find what y is, now this is the angle that is in between the tangent and this chord, which means this is 25, means using the starting and the ending point of this chord, I'm gonna form an angle here. This angle is formed, which means this angle will be the same as this angle here, which is 25 degrees. Now, to find the value of this y here, we're going to make use of this triangle that we have. So in this triangle, so there are 3 angles, so it will make a total of 180 degrees, which means this 25, this y, which is this angle, which is 75, and then this angle, which is y plus 20, together is equal to 180 degrees, because this is the angle sum of a triangle. So 25, 75, and 20, when we add, we get a total of 120. So to find the value of y from 180, I need to deduct that 120, which is equal to 60 degrees. Now we have found all 4 angles. So we know that W and X, they both are 20 degrees. So W is 20, then X is 20. The value of Y we found as 60. And then we found the value of Z as 45 degrees. That is this angle that we have here. With that, we are done with this question. Let's move on to the next question that we have, which is question 5. In our records, the time taken for workers in her company to travel to work, the table and the histogram shows, each part shows the information given here. The table is given, the time is given here, some of the frequencies are given while some of them are missing. And we also have this histogram that is given to us. We need to complete the table and the histogram. Now, to complete the table and the histogram that is given here, the frequency density for the frequency density for the first 2 columns are known, because we can find it using this histogram. So this is going to be 2.8 and this is 3. So that's going to be 2.8 and 3. So let me write it here, 2.8 and 3. Now, using this and the information that is given here, we can complete the histogram as well as the frequency, the table that is given here, because we know that the frequency density is found by dividing the frequency by the class width, which means this 57 has to be divided by the class width here. So the class width here is going to be the difference between 20 and 40, 25 and 40, which is 50. So 57, when you divide it by 15, you get 3.8. That's the frequency density. Next, 40 to 60 is 20. 20 is the class width. So I'll write it as class width here. 38, you divide it by this 20. That's going to be 1.9. And next, 60 to 80 is going to have a class width of 20. So 12 should be divided by that 20, which is going to be 0.6. So we have found the frequency density for each one of this, and we can complete the frequency diagram that is given to us, the frequency histogram that is given to us. Now we need to calculate the frequency here, but we can find the class width. So 0 to 10 has a class width of 10, 10 to 25 has a class width of 15. Now if I'm to find the frequency density is frequency over class width, which means to calculate the frequency, I need to times the frequency density with the class width. So 10 and 2.8, when I multiply it, I get 28. 15 and 3, when I multiply, I get 45. So now we have completed the frequency table. Now let's draw the histogram. So the second one is 25 to 40, that is from here to here, has a height of a frequency density of 3.8. So that's going to be up to this height. So then let me draw that. It's going to be like this. Next, we have 40 to 60, which is 1.9. So 40 to 60 is here. So 1.9, this is where 2 is. So 1.9 will be here. So 40 to 60, and it has to be 1.9. So this is how it will be. Next, we have 60 to 80, which is 0.6. So this is going to be 5. This is going to be where 6 is. 60 to 80, yes. So this is how it's going to be. So with that, we have completed the frequency histogram that is given here. Let's move on to the next one. Calculate an estimate of the mean time. Now, to calculate the mean, we're going to make use of the formula fx over f. We know the frequencies. We can find the total of the frequencies. Now, we got to use fx over f formula. the total of the frequency is known to, we can calculate it, or sometimes it's usually given in the question here. But in this case, the total of the frequency will be the addition of these numbers given here. So when we add this 28, 45, 57, 38, and 12, we get a total of 180. So that should go in the denominator. Now we need to find the numerator. The numerator should be the product of the frequency with its respective mid values. So mid values in the sense, in this as it's given as a group here, in the middle of 0 and 10, the mid value that we have is 5. So the 28 should be times with the 5. So 28 times 5. Then the next frequency is 45, should be times with the mid value here. In between 10 and 25, the mid value is 17.5. So 45 should be times with 17.5. Next, we have 57. So 57 should be times with the mid value here, which is 32.5. So 57 times 32.5. Next, we have 38 and 50. Next, we have 12 and 70. We put this in the calculator, we multiply them, add them up, divide it by 180, that will give us the mean. So let's see what we get. So 28 times 5, then we have 45 times 17.5. Next, we have 57.32, 57 times 32.5. Next, we have 38 times 50. And then we have 12 times 70. So I need to add them all up and divide it by 180. So this will give us the mean, which is going to be 30.66. So I can write it as 30.67. So 30.67 minutes, that's going to be the answer. So this is going to be correct to two significant, two decimal places. I have written it. Let's move on to the next one that we have, part C. The longest time that any of these workers take to travel to work is 80 minutes. Give a reason why Rashid may be wrong. Now, according to this table, the last number that is given to us is 80. That doesn't mean that 80 is going to be the last number, because this is a range that is given, which means it can be anything in between that. They did not say that that is exactly 80. That's why he is wrong. So then the reason that we would be writing here is the exact values are not known, as class intervals are given. The next part of the question is, Indira picks 3 workers at random. So she's picking 3 workers at random from those who take longer than 25 minutes to travel to work. Calculate the probability that one of the worker takes 60 minutes or less. And yeah, one of the worker takes 60 minutes or less. And the other 2 workers take more than 60 minutes. So I have already drawn a small tree diagram here just to make it more clear. So first we will calculate the number of workers who take longer than 25 minutes. So in the table, longer than 25 minutes means it's going to be 57, 38, and 12 together. So I'm going to add 57, 38, and 12 together, which will make a total of 107. So out of these 107 workers, only 3 people are selected. And 1 worker takes 60 minutes or less. So 60 minutes or less means it's going to be like this. So 60 minutes or less means, in this case, if you check this, this is where we have 60 minutes or less. So it's going to be the addition of this, 57 and 38. So 57 and 38 together is equal to 95. And those who take more than 60 minutes, if you check, it's going to be more than 60 minutes means it's going to be 12. Now we need to use this information that we have here to find the value. Now in this case, one of the workers should take 60 minutes and 2 workers should take one of the workers should take less than 60 minutes or equal to 60. The other two should take more than 60 minutes. So I have written M here and L here. This M represents more than 60 minutes and L represents 60 or less than 60 minutes. So in this case, one of them, so I'm going to write the possible combination it could make. So it will be M, which means all three workers picked are going to take more than all three are going to take more than 60 minutes, which should not be considered. Then next one is MML. So here there are two people who take more than 60 while one less than 60. That can be considered. Next we have MLM. That's going to be two workers again more than 60 and one worker less than 60. That can be considered. Next we have MLL. That cannot be considered because there are two workers less than 60. Next we have LMM. This can be considered because two workers are more than 60 and one worker is less than 60. Next we have LML. This shouldn't be selected. Next we have LLM. This shouldn't be selected either. And we have LLL. This shouldn't be selected either. Because in the question it clearly states that two of the workers should take more than 60 minutes and one worker takes 60 or less. So due to those reasons, these three are the probabilities that we need to find and add them together. Now, I'm going to explain how to complete this tree diagram that is given. Now, in the question, out of these 107 workers, those who take more than 60 minutes is going to be 12, which means we can write this one as the probability here as 12 over 107. That means the next one also being more means now already out of this 107 worker, one of them is selected. That means we will be left with 106 workers. And from that 106, 12 is one person is already picked out of this 12. So there will be 11 of them remaining. So I'm going to put that there. Next, it's going to be L. So to find this one, in this case, again, the total that we would have will be out of 105 because two workers are already picked out of these 107 workers. So the third worker to be picked will be out of 105. The probability will be out of 105. And it's going to be L, which means they're going to take 60 or less, which means there are 95 such workers. So the probability will be 95 over 107. So it's going to be a combination of this that we have to do here. So here I'm going to write it as 12 over 107 times 11 over 106 times 95 over 105. So this is going to be the probability for the first one that we have here, which is MML. Next one is MLM. So M we already know that's going to be 12 out of 107. Next we are going to find for L. So already one worker is picked. So there are 106 workers left. Out of them, those who take less than 60 minutes or 60 minutes will be 95. So it's going to be 95 out of 106. Next, it's going to be more. So it's going to be out of 105. One of them is already picked from those 12 workers who take more than 60 minutes. So we will be left with 11 of them. So here now the probability will be 12 over 107 times 95 over 106 times 11 over 105. And the next one that we have is LMM. So that's going to be those who take less than 60 minutes. So it's going to be 95 and it's going to be out of 107. Then it's going to be more than 60 minutes. So it will be out of 106 because one worker is already taken out. So, and we have 12 workers who take more than 60 minutes. It's going to be 12 out of 106. And next again, it's going to be M. So already two workers are picked. So the total that we have is 105 now. Then already out of those 105 workers, there is one person out of these 12 workers who take more than 60 minutes selected already. So we will be left with 11 workers now. So it's going to be 95 over 107 times by 12 over 106 times by 11 over 105. Now we need to find what these values are and add them together. Now in this question, if we are to check the way how it's given here, the denominators of all three fractions are the same, 107 times, 106 times, 105. And the numerators, if we check, it's still the same, 12, 11, and 95, but the arrangement is different. That's the only difference. So simply, it's the same thing, but it's written 3 times. So I can just write 112 over 107 times, 11 over 106 times, 95 over 105. If I find this answer and if I multiply by 3, I'll get the probabilities of all three together. So that is what we are going to find. So I'm going to put this in the calculator. The first fraction is 12 over 107. I need to times it with the next one, which is 11 over 106. Then the next one is going to be 95 over 105. I'm going to find what I get. This is what I have. Then I need to times this answer that I have here by 3. So when I do that, this is what I get as the answer, which is 1254 over 39,697. 1254 over 39,697. This is the answer for this question. Let's move on to the next question that we have, which is question 6. So in this question, we're given 3 functions and we need to find the value of f of 2. So that means we need to make use of the first function that is given here and we need to substitute x with this 2. So it's going to be 5 times 2 minus 3. So this is equal to 7. That is the answer for the first question, first part here. The next one is we need to find g of 0.5. That means first we need to find what f of 0.5 is. Then the answer that we get should be substituted into the g of x function. So first we're going to find what f of 0.5 is. To do this, in the f of x function, we need to substitute 0.5 for x and try solving this. So this gives us negative half as the answer. This negative half should be substituted, should be sent into the next function machine, which is g of x, which is 64 half, 64 to the power x. So then g of negative half is what we are supposed to find. This is equal to 64 to the power negative half because x is our negative half now. Now we got to solve this. So the index here is a negative. So to make it positive, I need to write it in the denominator form. So I need to put that in the denominator. So I'll write it as 1 over 64 to the power half. Square root and power half is the same thing. So this is the same as 1 over the square root of 64. So when we do the square root of 64, we get 8. This is equal to 1 over 8. So this 1 over 8 is the answer. Let's move on to the next question that we have, which is question B. We need to find the inverse function of h. To find the inverse function, we need to do these 2 steps, that is, to make x the subject, and then we need to switch x and y. So we need to use the h of x function, and the h of x function is 2 over x plus 1. So I'll write it as y is equal to 2 over x plus 1. Now I need to make x the subject. To make x the subject, I'm going to bring this x plus 1 to the other side and y to this side. So I can just switch the places first. So I will have x plus 1 is equal to 2 over y. And now I'm going to bring this minus 1 to the other side. That becomes plus 1 to the other side. That becomes minus 1. So I know x is equal to 2 over y minus 1. I have made x the subject. I have made x the subject. Now I need to switch x and y. So I need to switch these two. So y is equal to 2 over x minus 1. So this 2 over x minus 1 is going to be the inverse function. Let's move on to part C. We need to find, okay, so we have an equation that is given g of x is equal to 1 over 2 fifths. We need to find what x is. Well, the g of x function is known to us, which is 64 to the power x. So I can write it as 64 to the power x is equal to 1 over 2 to the power 5. Now I'm going to get rid of this fraction here. So that is to bring the denominator that we have here to the numerator. So I can write it as 64 to the power x is equal to, I will leave that 64 to the power x for now. So this is equal to 2 to the power negative 5, because it's already positive when it's in the denominator. When I take it to the numerator, it will become negative. The index will become negative. So I can write it as 2 to the power negative 5. And in the other side, we have 64 to the power x, but I'm going to write this 64 as 2 to the power 6. Because 2 to the power 6 is the same as the 64. That gets multiplied with the index that we already have, which is that x. Now we know that the bases are the same. We can relate the indices. So 6 times x is 6x. So I can write it here as 6x is equal to this negative 5. So the value of x is negative 5 divided by 6, because I need to take the 6 to the other side. The next part of the question, question D. Write as a single fraction in its simplest form 1 over f of x minus h of x. So f of x function is known to us, which is 5x minus 3. So I can write it like that. H of x function is also known to us. So in the question, h of x function is 2 over x plus 1. So I'm going to write that here, 2 over x plus 1. And now I need to solve this. So this is like to subtract algebraic fractions. To do that, it's important that the denominators are the same. To make the denominators the same, in the first fraction, I'm going to multiply the first fraction's denominator by x plus 1. This also has to be multiplied by x plus 1. And the second fraction should be times with 5x minus 3. Its numerator also has to be times with 5x minus 3. So when we do that, we have x plus 1 times 1, which is the same as x plus 1. And they all will have the same denominator, which is 5x minus 3 and x plus 1. So I'm going to write it like this. And then here in the numerator, this is 2, but this 2 also, the 2 gets multiplied with this 5x minus 3 and is being subtracted. So I'm going to multiply directly with this minus 2. So when I do that, I get minus 2 times 5x, which is going to be minus 10x. And then I have minus 2 times minus 3, which is plus 6. Now I'm going to simplify the numerator. So I have 1 and 6, that is 7. And then x and minus 10x, which is 9x. This is over the two fractions that we have here, the two factors that we have here, which is 5x minus 3 and x plus 1. This is what we get. Now here, we don't try to expand, we don't have to expand the denominator because we don't try to do that. But we need to check if the numerator can be factorized or not. But here we cannot factorize this further. Therefore, we cannot simplify it either. But in some instances, what happens is we can factorize the numerator at the same time. We will be able to simplify the factors, factors in the numerator with the factors in the denominator as well. But here it's going to be just 7 minus 9x over 5x minus 3 times x plus 1. Let's move on to the next question that we have, which is question 7. Complete the table of values for the equation y is equal to 3 cos 2x. And the values are given correct to one decimal place. So here, this is the equation of the curve that we are going to draw, or the graph that we are supposed to draw. And the value of x given here is 45, 60, and 80. For those values, we need to find the y values. So to do that, we have y is equal to 3 cos 2x, which means that is cos 2 times the value of x, which is 45 for the first one. Let's put this in the calculator and see what we get. So it's going to be 3 times cos 2 times 45. So the first one's value is going to be 0. The next one is when the value of x is 60. So I'm going to make this into a 60 and see what we get. So this is equal to minus 3 over 2. So correct to one decimal place is minus 1.5. And then the next one that we have is 80. So when we put this 80, the value that we get is minus 2.819. So correct to one decimal place, it's going to be minus 2.8. So I'm going to put all the values that we found. 0, minus 1.5, and then we have minus 2.8. So now we need to draw the graph y is equal to 3 cos 2x using this table of values given to us. So now I'm going to plot all the points. I have now marked all the coordinate points, and now we're going to connect these coordinate points to draw the curve. So when the points are connected together, this is how the graph would look like. In part C, use the graph to solve the equation 3 cos 2x is equal to -2. So to solve this, now we know the equation of the graph is y is equal to 3 cos 2x. 3 cos 2x. Next we have 3 cos 2x, which is equal to -2. This is equal to this -2, which means these two sides are equal. Therefore, we know that the value of y is -2. Now, what we got to do is, as y is -2, this is where -2 is, we're going to draw this line y is equal to -2 in the graph. So this is that y is equal to -2 line. Now, what we got to do is, at the point of intersection, which is this point, we're going to find the value of x, because that is how we find the value of the angle, which is x. So this is 60, this is 70, so this is 62, 64, this is 66 degrees. That is the value of x. In the next question, by drawing a suitable straight line, solve the equation 120 cos 2x is equal to 80 minus x. So even this question should be done similar to this one. So we know the original equation of the graph, which is y is equal to 3 cos 2x. The equation given here, I'm going to write this part in the right side. So that's going to be 120 cos 2x, and this 80 minus 2x in the other side. So 80 minus x in the other side. Now what I'm going to do is, now we need to see how we could make this similar to the equation that we have for the graph. So I need to divide this by 40 degrees. Only if I divide by 40 degrees, the 120 divided by 40 gives us a 3. So that way I can make 3 cos 2x, just like the one that I have here. I need to do the same thing to the other side. That's the reason why I wrote this one also out over 40. Now what I can do is, I know in the other side I have 3 cos 2x. And here, this 40 is common to 80 as well as this x that we have here. So I can write it as 80 divided by 40 minus x divided by 40. So 80 divided by 40 is the same as a 2 minus x divided by 40. This is equal to 3 cos 2x. Now I know that this one and this is exactly the same, which means I can say that this y and this will be equal. Therefore, the equation is y is equal to 2 minus x over 40. I can rearrange this and write it in the straight line equation format. So that is, the term with the x should be written first, right after the equal sign. So it's going to be minus. I'll write it as 1 over 40x, because this gradient m is this minus 1 over 40 x. And then I have plus 2, which is the y-intercept. This plus 2 that we have here is the y-intercept. That is the place where the graph hits the y-axis. The straight line hits the y-axis. So that is going to be this plus 2. Next, I have minus 1 over 40. This minus 1 over 40 means that this negative explains that the graph is going to be a decreasing graph. And we have 1 over 40, which means if I do rise over run for this, 1 is going to be the rise and 40 is the run, which means when we go 1 unit down, we need to move 40 units to the right. That's the meaning. So 1 unit down and 40 units to the right means it's going to be here. This is where the first point is. I'm going to repeat that again. 1 unit down, 40 units across. So it's going to be here. Now what we got to do is, the points that we have marked here, we're going to connect it with a straight line. So I'm going to connect this with a straight line. So that is how the straight line should be drawn. So this is how it's going to be. Now we can clearly see that we are asked to solve this by using a suitable line and using the graph. So in that case, now we need to find the point of intersection. So this is that point of intersection. At the point of intersection, we need to find the value of x. That is going to be the answer. So this is that point of intersection. So I need to find the value here. So it's in between 30 and 40. So it's going to be 35, or it's going to be like 34.5. So it is actually 34.5. So it's in the middle here. So this is where 35 is. This is where 34 is. In the middle of that, that's going to be 34.5 degrees. So this is how we do this question. Let's move on to question 8. The diagram shows a shape made from a major sector AOB. This is that major sector. And there are two triangles as well. And OB's value, BC's value is already given and it's marked in the diagram. OBC, obtuse angle AOC, that is this one, is an obtuse angle, and that is 135 degrees, that is already marked. And this BCO is a 90-degree angle, that is also given to us. The first question is, to show that angle BOC, that is this angle, is equal to 19.5 degrees. Now to show that this is 19.5, we will have to use trigonometry for this triangle that is given to us. So let me draw the triangle here. So this is the angle we are supposed to find. This is 6, this is 2, this is 90. I need to find this. So this is the hypotenuse. This is the side opposite to the angle, that is the opposite side. So the trigonometric ratio that deals with the opposite and the hypotenuse is sine. When we use Sokal-White sine, so we got to make use of sine to find the value of the angle. So it's going to be sine theta is equal to the opposite side, that is 2, over the hypotenuse, which is 6. I need to find the angle, so I need to use inverse of sine for this fraction that I have, which is 2 over 6. I'm going to put this in the calculator to find the value of the angle. So inverse sine of 2 over 6. So that will be equal to 19.47. So correct to one decimal place, it will be 19.5. So this is 19.5, and we have shown that we get 19.5 degrees as the angle. So I'll mark this 19.5 degrees here. In the next part of the question, we are supposed to calculate the area of the major sector AOB. This sector's area we are supposed to calculate. To calculate that, we need to know how much this angle is. This is 135, this is 19.5, so I can find the value of this angle by deducting these two from 360. So from 360 degrees, I'm going to deduct 135 and 19.5. When I do that, I get 205.5. Now, to calculate the area of the sector, this is the formula we would be using. You would write the angle out of 360 degrees, and then I need to multiply it with pi r squared. Pi times the radius of the sector or the circle. The sector is 6, so that's going to be 6 squared. So I need to put this in the calculator and see what we get as the answer. That will be the area of the sector given to us. So 205.5 divided by 360, and then I need to times it with pi, and then 6 squared. So this is equal to 64.559. So correct to 2 decimal places, it's going to be 64.559. Correct to 2 decimal places, it's going to be 64.56. So 64.56 square centimeters is the area of this sector. Let's move on to the next part that we have. C is the midpoint of OD. So I have drawn the diagram, a small diagram similar to the one that we have above here, so that it's easy for us. So C is the midpoint, which means this side and this side will be equal to each other, and we are supposed to calculate the length of AD. So this line is what we are supposed to calculate. Now in the diagram, in the previous step, we found what this angle is, which is 202.5 degrees. And we also know that this angle that we have is 19.5, and then this side is given to us as 6, and this side is given to us as 2. So this is how the information is given in the diagram. and the information that we found, I have marked it all here. So now I need to calculate what this AD is. To calculate that, I need to first find what OC is. So I'm going to consider this right-angled triangle that is given to us. In this side is 6, this side is 2. This is that side OC. So I'm going to first find what this OC is. This is a right-angled triangle, so I can apply the Pythagoras' theorem to find OC. So from the square of the hypotenuse, I deduct the square of the shorter side, and then I have to square root it. That will give us what OC is. So let's put this in the calculator and see what we get. So 6 squared minus 2 squared. When I do that, I get 4 root 2. So this is going to be what OC is. I'll just leave it like this for now, because OC is 4 root 2. So if I'm to find what OD is, that is this total length, I need to double this 4 root 2. So I need to times this by 2. When I do that, I get 8 root 2, which is the same as 11.31. So I'm going to write this 11.31 here. That is the length of OD. Now, to calculate the length of AD that is given to us, if I consider this triangle that is given here, so let me draw the triangle again. So this is the triangle that we need to use to calculate AD. We know this side A to O and O to B will be the radius of this sector. So this side will also be 6. This angle is known to us as 135 degrees. This complete length is known to us as 11.31. And we are supposed to find what this AD is. So we're going to make use of the cosine rule to find what AD is. So then this AD is equal to, I need to square these two shorter sides, which is 6. And this 11.31, I need to square this. And I need to minus 2 times the product of these two, which is 6 times 11.31. And then I need to do cos of this angle, which is 135 degrees. And this answer should be square rooted, because this is the cosine rule that we are applying. And that way we can find what AD is. So I'm going to put this in the calculator. So that is the square of the two sides that are given here should be squared, added. And you need to deduct that with 2 times 6 times 11.31 cos 135. That is, this side and this angle should be opposite to each other. So that only then we can, that is how the formula should be. Only then we can make use of this to find what AD is. So this 135 is written here. Now I'm going to put this into the calculator and see what we get. So square root 6 squared plus 11.31 squared minus 2 times 6 times 11.31 times cos 135. So when we do that, we get 16.12 as the value for AD. So AD is equal to 16.12 centimeters. Let's move on to the next part. Part 4. Now we need to calculate the total area of this shape. Now, this shape that is given to us is made out of 3 sections. One is the sector. Then we have a right-angled triangle, so or else we call it as a right triangle. And then we have an obtuse triangle. So these 3 areas should be added together to calculate the area of the shape. To calculate the area of the sector, now we have already calculated it in the previous question and we got it as 64.56. With that, we need to add the area of the right angle triangle. To calculate the area of the right angle triangle, we use the formula half times base times height. So half times base is going to be this OC. So we found OC as 4 root 2. So I'll write it like that, 4 root 2 times the height, which is going to be this 2. With this, I need to add the area of the obtuse triangle. In this obtuse triangle, we cannot use half times base times height because the perpendicular height is not known to us. But we know the included angle, therefore we can use this formula half times AB sin C. So in that, I'm going to substitute it half times. A and B will be 6 and 11.31. So 6 times 11.31 times the sine of the angle, and this angle is 135 degrees. So we are going to put this in the calculator and see what we get as the answer. So this will be the area of the shape. So let's put everything all at once. So we have 64.56. With that, I need to add half times. So let me write it here. Half times 4 root 2 times 2. With that, I need to add half times. So let me put the half here. Times the sides, which is 6. And we have 11.31. 11.31. And I need to multiply with this sine angle that we have. So that's going to be sine 135. That is what we have as the obtuse angle. Now I need to find this, which is 94.208. Correct to 2 decimal places, it will be 94.21. 94.21 square centimeters will be the area of the total shape. Let's move on to the next part. A sector of a circle has radius 8 centimeters and area 160 square centimeters. And there's another sector which is mathematically similar, which has a radius of 20 centimeters. And we need to calculate the area of the larger sector. I have already drawn two shapes here. So here, the area of the smallest radius of the smaller sector is 8. Radius of the larger sector is 20. Here, the area is given to us as 160 square centimeters. Here, we are supposed to calculate what this area is. So this is relating similar shapes. So first, we are going to find the linear scale factor. So I'm going to put the smaller shape's value at the top and the larger shape's value at the top. So I'm going to consider the two radii. So it's going to be 8 and 20. So when I simplify this, I get 2 over 5. So this is what I get. I can divide both by 4 and get 2 over 5. Now this is the linear scale factor. I need to find the area scale factor because the question is to calculate the area of this sector. So I need to know the area scale factor. So the area scale factor will be the square of the linear scale factor, which will be 4 over 25. Now I need to relate this with the area that is given to us, and we are supposed to find the area of the missing sector. So this is equal to the area of the smaller sector is 160. So that should be written at the top because the smaller shape is written at the smaller shape's value is written at the top. Then I need to find this. That is going to be the denominator. I'm going to label it as A. I need to find what A is. That will be the area of this sector. So to do that, I need to cross multiply. So 4 times A is 4A. This is equal to 160 times 25. To find what A is, I need to divide both the sides by 4. That way I can find what A is. So this will be the area of the larger sector. So I need to multiply 160 and 25 together. And that answer has to be divided by 4. So when I do that, I get 1000, which means the area of the larger sector is going to be 1000 square centimeters. Let's move on to the next question, which is question 9. In this question, there are 3 coordinate points given to us, and we need to check if the triangle given to us that is formed by connecting these 3 coordinate points is scalene, isosceles, or equilateral, and we must show our workings. So I have marked these 3 coordinate points in a small grid that I drew in the side. So it's best to draw something like that so that you can visualize how to work it out. So the 3 coordinate points are given. So I'm going to find each of these lengths here, and then I will be able to decide whether it's scalene, isosceles, or equilateral. So first, let's consider AB. So to find the length AB, we need to use the coordinate points 0, 2, and B, which is 3, 3. So I'm going to label this as x1, y1, x2, y2. I need to calculate the length. So I'm going to make use of this length formula, which is the distance AB. To find the distance AB, I need to square root the differences in the x values square plus the differences in the y value square should be done. So x2 minus x1 is 3 minus 0 square plus y2 minus y1 is 3 minus 2 square. Add them together and square root it. So I'm going to put this in the calculator and let's see what we get. Square root, and I have 3 minus 0 square plus 3 minus 2 square. This is equal to square root 10. That is the same as 3.16. So this is square root 10, which is 3.16. I'll just write it like that. Next, I'm going to find the length of B and C. So the length BC. So the two coordinate points you would be using will be B and C, which is 3, 3, and C, which is 4, 0. I'm going to use these two coordinate points. So we're going to label it as x1, y1, x2, y2, and repeat the same thing that we did here to find what BC is. So I'm going to substitute this into this distance formula. The difference in the x values, which is going to be 4 minus 3, square that. Add that with the difference in the x values, which is 0 minus 3 with the square. And then I need to square root this. So I'm going to put this in the calculator and see what we get as the value here. So square root, and I will rearrange this formula. So here it's going to be 4, and then minus 0 is going to be a 3, and then this 3 that we have here is going to be a 0, and then we have a 3. So this is equal to, again, square root 10, which is the same as 3.16. So this gives us square root 10, which is 3.16. So we know that these two sides, which is this AB and BC, are equal for now. So let's check what is going to be this AC as well. Then we can decide what's going to be the triangle. To find what AC is, you got to use the coordinate points A and C, which is 0, 2, and then the next one is 3 and 4 and 0. So these two are the coordinate points we would be using. And we are going to label the coordinate points as x1, y1, x2, y2. And we are going to put this in the length formula to calculate the distance. So that is going to be to calculate what AC is. So AC will be equal to, I should write it within the square root, the difference in the x values. So that is 4 minus 0 square plus the difference in the y values, which is 0 minus 2 square. And then I need to add and square root it to calculate the value of AC, the length of AC. So I'm gonna make the changes now. So this 3 has to be 2. And here in the first brackets, I have 4 and 0. So it's going to be 4 minus 0. So this is what we have. When I do that, I get 2 root 5. So this 2 root 5 is equal to 4.47. So I get 2 root 5, which is 4.47. This is what we get. Now, if you check the values that we have 3.6, 3.16, 3.16, and 4.47. So we know that two sides are equal. Therefore, the triangle is an isosceles triangle. An isosceles triangle. So we have figured it out. Let's move on to the next question that we have, which is question B1. Here, we need to find the equation of the line AC. To find this equation of the line AC, that is a straight line, we already know that the y-intercept, the place where it hits the y-axis, is the y-intercept, that is 2. But now to find this, now we need to find the gradient. To find the gradient, we need to make use of the two coordinate points A and C. So the coordinate point A is 0, 2. So I'll write it here, 0, 2. And the coordinate point B is 4, 0. I'm gonna label this as x1, y1, x2, y2. To find the gradient, I need to find the difference in the y values divided by the difference in the x values. That's the formula. I'm gonna substitute it into the formula. So that's going to be 0 minus 2 over 4 minus 0. So 0 minus 2 over 4 minus 0. When I do that, I get minus half as the gradient, because I get minus 2 over 4, which is the same as minus half. Now the equation is y is equal to minus half x. I need to find what c is, but according to this diagram, we can easily say that the gradient is the y-intercept is 2, because this is that point, that is where the graph hits the y-axis. Or if you are to use the coordinate point, still we can pick this coordinate point, because 0, 2 means the value of x is 0, the value of y is 2. So at the y-intercept, the value of x is always 0. So we know that the y-intercept now is a 2. So I can write it as minus half x plus 2. This is equal to y. This will be the equation of the straight line AC. Let's move on to the next one that we have. Find the equation of the perpendicular bisector of AC. Give your answer in the form y is equal to mx plus c. Now, in this case, the term perpendicular is very important. At the same time, the term bisector is very important. When we consider the perpendicular, the line is perpendicular to the line AC, means the gradient should be flipped and multiplied with a negative. Or we need to change the sign after flipping it, because the gradient of the perpendicular line will be a negative reciprocal of the gradient that is given here. So here the gradient is negative half. I need to flip, so I get 2 over 1, and I need to change the sign. Minus becomes plus, that's going to be 2 over 1, which is the same as a 2. This 2 will be the gradient of the perpendicular line. So it's going to be y is equal to 2x plus c, but we need to find the y-intercept now. Now, usually a coordinate point will be mentioned in the question to find, that can be substituted into this y and x in this half-completed equation to find the y-intercept. But in this question, they haven't given you the coordinate point, but they have indirectly mentioned that this is a perpendicular bisector, which means this point bisector explains that the perpendicular line goes through the midpoint of AC, which means first we need to calculate the midpoint of AC. So we pick the two coordinate points A and C, which is 0, 2. And we have 4 and 0, the two coordinate points that we have here. So I'll label it as x1, y1, x2, y2. And to find the midpoint, the coordinates of the midpoint, we need to find the average of the x values and the average of the y values. So to find this, the two x values are 0 and 4. We add them together and divide by 2. The two y values are 2 and 0. Add them together and divide it by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is a 2. 2 plus 0 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is a 1. So the coordinate of the midpoint will be 2, 1. This 2, 1 only should be substituted into this half-completed equation to find the y-intercept. The value of y is 1. The value of x is 2. So 1 is equal to 2 times 2 plus c. So 2 times 2 is a 4. I'm going to take the 4 to the other side. So it gets subtracted from 1. So c is equal to minus 3, which means the equation will be y is equal to, we have 2x and the y-intercept is minus 3. This is the equation of the perpendicular bisector. Let's move on to the next part of the question. ABCD is a kite. The point D has the coordinates w, 4w plus 1. Find the coordinates D. Now, I have drawn that same grid that we had before here as well, so that we can visualize it properly. So we have A, B, and C, and it is a kite. So the point D will be somewhere here, but we are not sure exactly what that is. That is what we are supposed to find. Now, okay, so it will be somewhere, maybe somewhere over here. I'm going to connect this and this one as well, so we know this is going to be the kite now. In a kite, there is a rule that in a kite, a characteristic of a kite is that the adjacent sides are equal, which means this AB and BC will be equal, and that is definitely equal. We already know that from the first part of the question that we did. And definitely these two lengths also will be equal in a kite. So we need to find the two coordinate points here. Now, I know that this is D, means this is going to be AD and CD. So the length of AD and the length of CD are equal, which means now this coordinate point that is given to us is W, 4W plus 1. And I know the coordinates of A and I know the coordinates of C. We're going to use that to find the distance between the distance of AD and relate it with the distance of CD, so we can find the value of the variable. So to do that, I'm going to consider the point A. The coordinates A is going to be 0 and 2. And the coordinate point we will consider D now, which is W and 4W plus 1. I'm going to label this as x1, y1, x2, y2, And now I need to find the length. So I need to use this formula here. So that is the difference in the x values. So that's going to be w minus 0, square that plus the difference in the y values, which is 4w plus 1, minus the y1 value, which is 2. And I need to square this. And this answer should be completely square rooted. This will give us the length of AD. I need to do the same thing for CD as well. So to do it for CD, the two coordinate points that we would pick will be C and D. So the coordinate C is known to us in the question as 4 and 0. This is C. And the coordinates D is given to us as W and 4W plus 1. I'm going to label this as X1, Y1 and X2, Y2. And I need to now substitute it here into the length formula. So the difference in the x values will be w minus 4 square. And then I need to add that with the difference in the y values and square it. So that's going to be 4w plus 1. From that, this is the y2 value minus the y1 value, which is 0. And then I need to square this. This entire answer should be square rooted. And that way we can find the answer. Now, in both the sides, I have square roots. So I need to solve this to find what w is. So in both the sides, I have the square roots. I can get rid of the square roots. And I need to expand whatever I have here. W minus 0 is w. When I square that, I'll anyways get w square. With that, I have 4w plus 1. So, and I have minus 2. That is going to be plus 1. And minus 2 is minus 1. Which means I need to do 4w minus 1 square. And in the other side, I have w minus 4 square. And I have 4w plus 1 and minus 1 is 4w plus 1. I need to square that as well. I'm going to expand this one now. So I have w squared. So I'm going to put that w squared plus 4w minus 1 squared is the multiplication of 4w minus 1 with 4w minus 1. So then I will write it here in the side. I need to multiply these two together. So 4w times 4w is 16w squared. These two, when I multiply, get minus 4w. Then I have minus 4w again. Minus 1 times minus 1 is plus 1. And I need to combine the like terms. So these two will give us minus 8w plus 1. And I have 16w squared. So I can write it as 16w squared minus 8w plus 1 is what we get here. This is equal to, I need to expand the brackets here, which is w minus 4. I need to square that. So that is w minus 4 times w minus 4. So w times w is w squared. Then we have minus 4w. Again, we have minus 4w, and minus 4 times minus 4 is plus 16. I can combine these two like terms, making it minus 8w. So we have w squared minus 8w plus 16. This is what we have here. Minus 8w plus 16. With this, I need to add 4w plus 1 squared. That means 4w plus 1 times 4w plus 1 I need to multiply. So I have 4w times 4w, which is going to be 16w squared. These two, when I multiply, I get 4w. 1 times 4w is 4w. 1 times 1 is a 1. I combine these two together, which is 8w. So I have 16w squared plus 8w plus 1. This is what I have here. So I'm going to put that here. So 16w squared plus 8w plus 1. Now I need to solve this. So to solve this bit, I'm going to combine all the like terms and bring it to the same side. So when I consider this, I have, okay, so I'm going to take all these terms that I have here, minus 8w and plus 8w. I can simplify that by crossing them out because that will become a 0. Then I have w squared and 16w squared, which makes 17w squared. 16 and 1 is 17. In the other side, w squared and 16w squared is going to be 17w squared. Then I have minus 8w. And I have this plus 1. This is what I have. So, and plus 1. This is equal to the 17w squared plus 17. I'm going to take all these terms that I have in the left side of the equation to the right side. So I'm going to take it to the right side. So this 17w squared and this 17w squared will cancel out when I take it. So it will be like this. 0 is equal to, I already have 17w squared plus 17 here. I'm going to take this 17w squared to the other side. So that becomes minus 17w squared. Minus 8w becomes plus 8w. And plus 1 when it goes to the other side becomes minus 1. And now what we got to do is we got to combine all the like terms again. So I'm going to put this down here. So when I combine the like terms, 17w squared and minus 17w squared will cancel out. 17 minus 1 is 16 and I have 8w. So I have 8w plus 16. This is equal to this 0. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this 16 to the other side. That becomes minus 16. So 8w is equal to minus 16, which means to find what w is, this minus 16 has to be divided by 8. So the value of w is negative 2. Now I know what w is. I can find what 4w plus 1 is because that is the y coordinate, y value of the coordinate point. So that's going to be 4 times negative 2 plus 1, which will be equal to negative 7, which means the two coordinates were w and 4w plus 1. So that's going to be minus 2 and minus 7. This will be the coordinates of the point D, minus 2 and minus 7. With that, we will be done with this question. Let's move on to the next question that we have, which is question 10. Expand and simplify. So we need to expand and simplify. So I need to remove the brackets by multiplying the terms inside the brackets with the term outside the brackets, outside the bracket. So 4 times 2x is 8x. 4 times minus 1 is minus 4. Minus 6 times 3 is minus 18. Minus 6 times minus x is plus 6x. Now I need to combine all the like terms. 8x plus 6x is equal to 14x. Minus 4 and minus 18 is equal to minus 22. So this is what I get. Then the second part of the question is to factorize completely. So we have 6x squared y plus 9xy. I need to take out the common terms to factorize. So when we consider the 6 and the 9, the number that is common is 3. I need to take the 3 out. X squared y and xy. X is common, y is common. I'm going to take that out and put the rest within the bracket. So I have 2 here. I have x that is left. Plus from the 9 I have taken the 3xy, so 3 left. So I need to put that within the brackets. Then the next one is 4x squared minus y squared plus 8x plus 4y. So when I consider this pair that is given here, this is going to be the difference of squares. And I need to factorize these two individually. 4x squared minus y squared, when I factorize it, I get I need to do the difference of squares. So it's like I need to square root it and put it within brackets, one with a plus and the other one with a minus. So it will be 2x plus y and 2x minus y. This is what I get for the first one. Then for the next one, I have this plus that we have here in between. So I'm going to put that plus. And for this 8x plus 4y, we have 4 in common. So I'm going to take that 4 out and put the rest, which is 2x plus y, within the brackets like this. Now, when we consider this term and this term, these are two separate terms. Now, in these two terms, they both have 2x plus y in common. So I'm going to take that common term outside again. So it's going to be 2x plus y. I'm going to put that in a separate bracket. And the terms that are left, which is this 2x minus y and this plus 4, should be written within another bracket. So it's going to be 2x minus y and plus 4 is written within another bracket. That is, the terms that are common is taken out, and the terms that is taken out and written once, and the terms that are left out is combined and put together into another bracket. So this is what we have. So I can get rid of this bracket now and write it as 2x plus y, that is the first one, and the next one is 2x minus y plus 4. I can write it this way. This is what I will get as the answer. Let's move on to the next part of the question, which is question C. Antonio travels 100 kilometers at an average speed of x kilometers per hour. He then travels 150 kilometers at a speed of x plus 10 kilometers per hour. The total time is given to us as 4 hours and 20 minutes. We need to get this equation. Now here we got to use the speed formula. Now we know that speed is equal to distance over time, but the time is given to us. We need to relate it with the time. So I need to switch this speed and time. So time will be equal to distance divided by speed. So for each section, the distance and the speed is given to us. That means this, for the first section, the distance is 100 kilometers. We divide it with the speed, which is x. So that will give us the time for the first section. Next, it's going to be distance is given to us as 150. We divide it with the speed, which is x plus 10. This will give us the time for the second section. Now, these two times together will be equal to this 4 hours and 20 minutes. But this 4 hours and 20 minutes, I'm going to completely write in hours only. So because these two will be, the speed is given in kilometers per hour for these two, which means the time we will get in hours. So we need to completely write this in hours. To do that, I need to first multiply the 4 hours by 60 to convert it into minutes. Add it with this 20 minutes, and then completely I'm going to divide it by 60 to convert it into hours. So let's see what we get there. So that's going to be 4 times 60. I need to add 20, and I'm going to divide this by 60. When I do that, I get 4.333, but I'll write it as a fraction, which is going to be 13 over 3. So this will be 13 over 3 hours. This is going to be completely in hours. So these two times together will be equal to this 13 over 3. This is what we have. Now I need to solve this, and I need to solve this so that I can rearrange it to get to this equation that is given. So first I need to get rid of the fractions. So to do that, I need to add these two fractions together, but we have two different denominators. So we need to make the denominators the same. So I need to multiply the first one with x plus 10, multiply the numerator also with x plus 10. The second fraction should be multiplied with x, multiply the numerator also with x. So we have 100 times this x plus 10 and plus this 150x. This entire thing is over x times 100, x times x plus 10. And in the other side, I have 13 over 3. This is what I have. Now I need to expand this. 100 times x is 100x. 100 times 10 is 1000. So 1000 plus 150x. This is over. I'm going to expand this one as well. So I get x times x, which is x squared. X times 10, I get 10x. This is equal to this 13 over 3. This is what I have. Now, to solve this, we have two fractions on either sides of this equal sign. So to solve this further, I need to cross multiply. So when I cross multiply this, 3 gets multiplied with the answer that I have here. So I'm going to add this as well. 100 and 150x is going to be 250x. So it's going to be 3 times 250x plus this 1000. This is equal to this 13 gets multiplied with what we have here. So it's going to be 13 times x squared plus 10x. Now I need to expand this. 3 times 250x is going to be equal to 750x. 3 times 1000 is equal to 3000. 13 times x squared is 13x squared. 13 times 10x is equal to 130x. Now I'm going to rearrange this to make it equal to a 0. So I'm going to take this 250x that I have here, 750x that I have here, and the 3000 to the other side. So I already have 13x squared plus 130x. The 750 goes to the other side, becomes minus 750x, plus 3000 to the other side becomes minus 3000, and this is equal to 0. This equation is equal to 0. I'm going to combine the like terms, so I will have 13x squared, 130x, and minus 750x is equal to minus 620x. Then I have this minus 3000, which is equal to this 0. This is what we have in the question. So 113x squared minus 620x minus 3000 is equal to 0. So we have derived that. Let's move on to the next part of the question, which is to solve this equation given to us and to find the speed Antonia travels for the first 100 kilometers. The speed Antonia travels in the first 100 kilometers is x in the question. So that means we are supposed to find what x is. We need to calculate what x is. So I'm going to solve this quadratic equation. So to solve the quadratic equation, we can make use of the quadratic formula method, the factorizing method, or the completing the square method. But I'm going to make use of the formula method. So in this equation, the value of a is 13, b is minus 620, c is minus 3000. I'm going to substitute this into the formula to find what x is. So the formula is minus b plus minus b squared minus 4ac. This is within the square root. And this entire thing should be over 2a. So it's going to be minus the value of b, which is minus 620, plus minus. And within the square root, I need to write b squared, which is minus 620 squared. Then I have minus 4 times the value of a, which is 13 times the value of c. So that's going to be minus 3000 over 2a. So that's going to be 2 times the value of a, that is 13. So then I'm going to put this in the calculator and see what I get as the value. So I'm going to put with the plus ones and the minus ones, and we will get 2 values for x. We're going to find both the values. So in the calculator, so I'm going to put it minus 620. Then I have plus square root within the brackets minus 620 and square this. Then I have minus 4 times 13 times minus 3000, and I need to divide this with 2 times 13. So I get 52.12 as the first value. So 52.12 as the first value. When we check the other value for x, so that is the only difference is that the plus that we wrote at the just in front of the square root should be replaced with a minus. When we do that, we get a negative value, which is negative 4.43. But then in this question, when it comes to speed cannot be negative. So due to that reason, we are going to cross this out. And so our answer will be 52.12, which means Antonia's speed for the first 100 kilometers is 52.12 kilometers per hour. This is what we get. With that, we will be done with this question. Now let's move on to the next one that we have, which is question 11. We are given a quadratic graph here. We need to find the coordinates of the points A, B, and C. In this quadratic graph, point B is the y-intercept. That is the place where the graph hits the y-axis. In the equation, if I rearrange it, I can write it as minus 2x squared, the term with the squared first, then 5x next, and then plus 18 in this. This plus 18 that we have here is the y-intercept. So that means if I'm to write the coordinates, so here the coordinates with the x value will be 0, and we will have this 18. Now in these 2 points here, the y value will be 0 because they are the x-intercepts or the roots of the equation. So here the y value will be 0 for both. So now I'm going to write the coordinates here. So the one coordinate we already found, which is 0 and 18, that is for B. And for A and C, we know their y values, which will be 0. We need to find what these 2 points are. So that is, we are supposed to find the roots of the equation. To find the roots of the equation, we need to, we know that at this point, the value of y is equal to a 0, which means this in the equation, we have minus 2x squared plus 5x plus 18. This is equal to y, but the y value is equal to a 0. So we are going to solve this to find what A, B, and C is. So here the value of A is negative 2, B is 5, C is 18. I'm going to substitute this into the quadratic formula. So it's going to be minus b plus minus the square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. This way I can find what x is. So then in this case, minus b, so that's minus 5 plus or minus. Within the square root, I have 5 squared minus 4 times a is negative 2. C is 18. And this entire thing is over 2a, which is 2 times the value of a, which is negative 2. I'm going to find the two values that I get. So one will be a positive value. And okay, let's see what values we end up getting. So both can be positive as well. Okay, so let's put this in the calculator. So we have minus 5 plus the square root 5 squared minus 4 times negative 2 times the 18 that we have. And in the denominator, we have 2 times negative 2. I get negative 2 as the answer. And the other value that I get should be found by changing this plus that we have just before the square root into a minus. So that is 9 over 2, which is the same as 4.5. So the two values that we got are negative 2 and 4.5. So those will be the roots of the equation. So negative 2 and 4.5. So A is going to be that negative 2 because that is in the negative section. And C will be in the positive section. So that's going to be 4.5. So these will be the coordinates that we're supposed to find. Then the second part of the question is to differentiate this equation that is given, this expression that is given to us. So to differentiate means to find the derivative function. That is the formula for gradient. So here I'm going to rearrange this first and write it as 2x squared plus 5x plus 18. To find the derivative formula or the differentiation, to differentiate it, we multiply the power of x with its coefficient. So 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. I'm going to write this x and reduce the power of x by 1. So x to the power 2 becomes x to the power 1, which is the same as an x. Then here the power of x is 1. I need to multiply it with its coefficient, which is 5. 1 times 5 is a 5, which is positive 5. Then I write x and reduce the power of x by 1. So it's x to the power 1. When I reduce it by 1, that becomes 0. Any variable or any term with a power of 0 is always equal to a 1. So this x to the power 0, I can write it as 1. So that's going to be minus 4x plus 5 times 1, which is a 5. And plus 18, we cannot check because it does not have any variable there. So this minus 4x plus 5 is the derivative function for this expression or the expression that is given to us. Then the next one that we have is to find the coordinates of the point where the gradient is 17 for this equation. Now the gradient is 17. Now the differentiation, the derivative function that we found is actually a formula that is used to calculate the gradient at a particular point, which means we got to relate this with the gradient that is given to us. So this minus 4x plus 5 will be equal to this gradient, which is this 17. So I need to solve this to find what x is. So I'm going to bring the 5 to the other side. So it becomes minus 5. This is equal to minus 4x. Then from 17, we got to deduct this minus 5. So that is equal to minus 12. 12. Then this 12 is equal to minus 4x. I need to divide both the sides by minus 4 to find what x is. The value of x is negative 3. I need to find the coordinates. So the x value is known to us. I need to find the y value. To find the y value, I need to substitute the value of x into this original equation. That is 18 plus 5 times the value of x minus 2 times the value of x squared will give us the value of y. I'm going to put this in the calculator and let's see what we get. So we have 18 plus 5 times minus 3. Then I have minus 2 times minus 3 squared. So when we solve this, we get minus 15. This minus 15 that we get is the value for y. So the y value is minus 15. So this will be the coordinates of the point that they are asking us to find. With that, we will be done with all the questions that we have in this paper.